think it's okay. It's on.
Okay, can everyone take a seat so we can get started? Okay, welcome to the 2026 Northampton School District Deliberative Session. This meeting is now officially open. Dr. Carlson, could I ask you to say the Pledge of Allegiance for us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks very much. We're going to start with some introductions. Our supervisors of the checklist today are Jane Morse, Kevin Murphy, Joanne Knox. If you haven't checked in so far and gotten a voter card, you want to go to the back of the room and check in right now. School District Clerk is Susan Buchanan. School Board Chair is Lisa Gagalis. We also have members Hillary Brown, Ashley Haas, Andrew Heitman, and Wendy Wallace. School Principal, Rebecca Carlson. Assistant Principal and Director of Student Services, Lori McGreeven. Associate Superintendent for Finance and Operations, Matt Ferraro, and Legal Counsel, Robert Casassa. Chair of the Budget Committee is Paul Martino. Members that are here tonight are Sean Dion, Larry Miller, Rick Stanton, James Sununu, and no less, okay, and James Sununu. I'm your moderator, Bobby Burns, and our assistant moderator is Bill Pelletier. Thanks to Relevant Team for setting up the room tonight, and Troy Claderis for doing all our broadcasting tonight. Paul, have you opened a Budget Committee meeting?
Yes, I'd like to open a meeting for the Municipal Budget Committee.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks. School deliberative session is our opportunity to meet as a legislative body. This is a gathering of all registered voters who wish to participate. This is not a school board meeting, nor is it a budget committee meeting, though those meetings are open at this time. School board members, though, and budget committee members are here just like you and will be participating as registered voters, just as you and I. This is your meeting. As such, if you don't understand something or need clarification, just ask me. Today's deliberative session, we will deliberate and amend articles. Actual voting on the warrant and casting of official ballots will be held on Tuesday, March 10th, right here at the school in the gym from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Accordingly, we may amend or modify, but not change the subject matter of any of the two articles we will be discussing tonight. Discussion will be limited to what can be done at this meeting. We will not vote to put articles on the warrant. All articles, either as is or as amended, will be on the official ballot. Each article will be projected on screen. The article will be moved to the floor and seconded. I will then recognize Matt, who will provide a brief explanation of the article, and then others will be allowed to speak. We have some basic rules. This is a meeting of registered voters. Others may attend, but non-voters will generally not be allowed to speak. School administrators, even though they aren't registered voters, will be permitted to speak for purposes of providing information and clarification. Please come up to the microphone to speak. If you can't come to the microphone, let us know, we'll bring it to you. Please show your voter card and state your name in full for the minutes. Please address all comments to me. Only one person has the floor at a time. Discussion between parties is not allowed. Once you have asked your question or made your comment, I ask that you yield to the next person speaking. If you are proposing an amendment, I will probably ask for it in writing to ensure that we can record it properly. We will discuss only one amendment at a time. This is basically to assure that we keep everything straight. Please keep in mind that every one of you in this room wants what is best for the school, but ideas may differ. All those wishing to speak will be allowed to speak before any speaker has a second chance. Remember, any article or amendment to an article can be reconsidered unless a vote is taken to restrict reconsideration. Once reconsideration is restricted, the article cannot be reopened. The school ballot has one open position for one school board member for a 3-year term, and Chris Burke is running. I know Chris is here somewhere. There's Chris. Okay, let's get started. Can I have a motion to move Article 1, the operating budget, to the floor?
I move to open Article 1 for discussion.
And And a second?
I second.
Okay, Matt, can you go ahead and discuss for us?
Thank you, and good evening. I'd like to begin by thanking the school board and the budget committee for their thoughtful and collaborative review, as well as their detailed work on this proposed budget. I also want to recognize Principal Rebecca Carlson, along with her team for really the tremendous effort that they put into building this plan. So this budget was developed using a zero-based approach, and that's starting from the ground up. We carefully reviewed each account, staffing level, and resource needed in order to ensure that we were aligned with our mission and goals as a school. Our proposed FY27 budget directly supports Northampton School's vision for teaching and learning, and our investment is aligned with developing caring, kind, and curious students. And we do that by intentionally promoting key 21st century skills. So that includes communication, critical thinking, and problem solving, empathy, integrity, and responsibility, a learner's mindset, and perseverance. So the photo that you see here on the screen really, I think, captures the type of collaborative, student-centered environment that we truly strive to foster every day. This budget is designed to sustain and strengthen these type of learning experiences that really bring our Portrait of a Learner strategic plan to life. So we've identified key priorities that shape this FY27 operating budget. The budget has been built to strengthen academic programming and ensure resources are aligned with both the SAU 21 Portrait of a Learner as well as our school improvement plan. These frameworks guide our core values, our beliefs, as well as our expectations for student learning. The budget is intentionally structured around 5 guiding principles. That includes strong academics, healthy mindsets, essential life skills, physical and mental well-being, and meaningful community engagement. Each of these areas truly represent a commitment to supporting the whole child and ensure that every student has the tools that they need in order to thrive. So there are several key goals that guide our work at NHS. First, we continue to expand the use of outdoor spaces, and that's meant to create meaningful instructional opportunities. And we look to support both academic learning and social skills development. We're committed to strengthening our multi-tiered systems of support, so MTSS, to ensure that we can provide appropriate challenges, intervention, and support for all of our students. And that includes both our students that may be struggling or those who are excelling. Another major goal is fostering positive school culture, and that's meant to support our students' growth, resilience, and independence. And finally, this budget supports the use of high-quality, research-based curriculum, instructional materials, and assessment practices that ensure strong, consistent learning outcomes across all of our classrooms. So cost per pupil is a metric that's often cited. It's an important data point in the budget process, and it's one that needs to be understood in context. So it reflects spending divided by enrollment, not necessarily efficiency or program quality itself. So we always review it alongside student outcomes, service levels, and local fiscal capacity. Northampton's cost per pupil is $34,105. That ranks 21st statewide out of 161 districts. But at the same time, the town's equalized valuation per pupil is $6.7 million. So that's roughly 3.5 times the state average. So what that does, that indicates really strong fiscal capacity here in Northampton. When you're looking at that through that lens, the district spending level is relatively moderate relative to its tax base. Another helpful measure is equalized school tax effort. So that's the amount of education tax raised per $1,000 of valuation in town. And when you're looking at that measure, Northampton ranks 184th out of 251 municipalities, which is actually in the lower third of statewide. So that figure suggests the local tax effort supporting schools is comparatively modest. Additionally, when we're looking regionally, Northampton's per pupil figure is also in line with other Seacoast area districts, which operate in a similar labor and cost market. And that's important because it's important to remember that 80 to 85% of a school budget is personnel related. That's people, that's labor. So investment in qualified teachers and our specialists and our support staff, that's a primary driver of that cost. It also is a primary driver of student success. So when looking at budget decisions, those costs are directly tied to maintaining proper instruction, appropriate class sizes, student support services, and overall educational outcomes. And those are all costs, those personnel costs on the Seacoast are very different than those staffing costs in the rest of the state. Oops. So our student assessment results continue to show strong academic performance compared to the rest of the state across all tested areas. That includes English language arts, math, and science. Across the board, Northampton students outperform New Hampshire students statewide and by a meaningful margin. These outcomes reflect the sustained effort of our students, our educators, and our support staff, along with a focused approach to instruction and student support. These results also reinforce our instructional programs are working. Continued investment in high-quality curriculum, skilled staffing, targeted interventions, and appropriate learning resources is translating into measurable student achievement. So taken together, this performance data helps ground the budget conversation in outcomes, showing how resource decisions and funding connect directly to student success. Another important metric is enrollment, and here at Northampton, enrollment has remained relatively stable over the past several years, with only modest year-to-year fluctuations. So we utilize NESDEC to prepare our annual enrollment projections, and the current projection for our FY27 school year is 275 students, and that does closely align with our recent enrollment patterns. That level of stability supports accurate staffing plans, class size management, and resource allocation, and helps maintain continuity when looking at our instructional programming. These projections are also a key input into the budget and long-range planning process that we conduct on an annual basis. They inform our staffing models, our facilities planning, and our multi-year financial decisions. Even small enrollment shifts can have an impact on the budget, as well as our impact on our program. So consistent data-driven projections really help us and ensure that we're planning responsibly and aligning those resources with our student needs. So when looking at next year, our projected class configuration is built around our school board's school policy class size guidelines. So our teaching staffing levels are aligned with those targets, and that's in order to support consistent instructional quality and appropriate student support at each of our grade levels. This approach has helped us to ensure balanced classrooms, effective instruction, and it offers us the flexibility needed to respond to student learning needs while also staying within established staffing standards. Also embedded in the Northampton School District operating budget is a cost of living adjustment, or COLA. We have our COLAs for our union employees. Those are dictated by their collective bargaining agreements. But we also have a non-union COLA, and that represents, we benchmark that to the Consumer Price Index, CPIU, for our geographic region. And from July of 2024 to July of 2025, that index did rise 3.2%. So that is the rate that we are recommending SAU-wide for FY27. And I'll note that that consistent data-based approach helps to ensure fairness and keeps compensation aligned with inflation across all of our districts within SAU 21. So the proposed FY27 Northampton School operating budget is $10,567,387. This represents a year-over-year decrease of $14,962, or a reduction of 0.14% compared to the current FY26 budget. When compared to the default budget, the proposed budget is $74,364 higher, and that's primarily due to contractual obligations and cost escalations that are not included in that default budget calculation. I will note that the decrease from the prior year and the small differential between the proposed budget and the default budget truly reflects a continued commitment to fiscal responsibility while still meeting the needs of our students and our staff. So there are a number of primary budget drivers that account for the decreases in the proposed FY27 Northampton School operating budget. The budget reflects several staffing adjustments based on current enrollment and student service needs. This includes the reduction of one classroom teacher due to a retirement, and that's in order to maintain class sizes and remain within the board guidelines, as well as a reduction of 1.5 educational associate positions. So those are our paraprofessional positions, and that's based on anticipated student need. We do conduct annual staffing analysis, particularly when we look at special education. Student needs can change pretty dramatically year to year. We look at that closely and determine what adjustments are necessary. Those EA positions will not be refilled through attrition. We do not anticipate anyone losing their actual jobs. We have also restructured the administrative team by reducing the curriculum coordinator role from a full-time 100% position to a 40% position, and that aligns more closely with our identified needs. I will note that this change has already occurred in this current school year, and we will see that reflected in some savings recognized in FY26. Additionally, there's a reduction of 100% speech language pathology assistant position to a 50% position, and that's again based on our staffing analysis, the student needs that are required. Finally, we're seeing decreased special education tuition and transportation costs, and that's due to changes in student requirements and fewer out-of-district placements. Overall, these adjustments reflect careful alignments of staffing and resources to current enrollment and service demands. So similarly, there were offsetting budget drivers contributing to increases in the proposed budget. Firstly, we are adding a full-time licensed nursing assistant. That's an LNA. Again, that's to meet current student service needs. As part of that staffing analysis, there can be both reductions as well as additions. Secondly, there are salary adjustments that account for a significant portion of the budget increase, and that again includes the contractual obligations to both our unions, C and CESPA, as well as our non-union staff. Health insurance costs have also risen due to employee plan election changes, which do impact overall district expenditures. I will note that our health insurance premium is level for next year. It is, the increase is due to employee election changes. Finally, we continue to see cost escalation across several operational areas. That includes instructional supplies, textbooks, software, contracted services, utilities, facilities operations, anywhere where we need to contract out labor, we're seeing increases. And that really reflects the broader inflationary pressures that we're seeing both locally and nationally here, and specifically here at Northampton. So collectively, these factors account for the upward budget adjustments in this proposal. So when we discuss the budget, it's also important to remember that revenue is also an important factor. We tend to focus on the expenditure side, But revenue, it's often less visible during the budget conversation, also because we have far less control over the revenue. But I do want to briefly update you on a recent change in New Hampshire law that's expanded eligibility for the Education Freedom Accounts, the EFAs. So under this program, state adequacy is provided directly to families who choose alternative education options. So prior to that eligibility expansion, an estimated 2 Northampton students qualified for the EFA program, and that represented approximately $8,500 in state adequacy funding. Following that eligibility change, participation was increased to an estimated 12 students, with associated funding rising to just over $52,000. So in practical terms, that represents a meaningful increase in both eligibility and state aid that's directed outside of public schools. So now we're going to move into the budget detail. I'll take a closer look at each departmental budget and note any increase or decrease, what's included in each account, and the reasons behind any variances from last year. This should give a clearer picture of where changes are occurring and how they support our overall goals for the coming year. So starting with general education, the FY27 budget is about $2.58 million, a decrease of $25,656, or just under 1%. This reduction is primarily due to that aforementioned elimination of a classroom teacher position, with additional savings expected in ESOL services based on student need and tutoring. So those reductions are partially offset by required salary increases, as well as small increases in our copier and printer expenses, our substitute costs, as well as our instructional materials. In special education, the budget is about $1.78 million, which represents a larger decrease of $233,973, or 11.62%. And the main drivers are the reduction of those 1.5 educational associate positions, as well as a decrease in out-of-district placement costs. And I will note that those savings were slightly offset by salary adjustments and the addition of a full-time LNA position. But I'll also point out that special education costs do continue to reflect the services that we are required to provide our students per state and federal law and according to their individual education programs, their IEPs. But overall, in both of these accounts, the adjustments reflect careful alignment of staffing and resources based on current enrollment and student service needs. The student activities budget for FY27 is $150,153, an increase of about $9,576, or 6.81%. This increase is driven largely by the need to replace soccer goals that unfortunately have reached end of life, as well as the rental cost for a lighting system used in the school's spring musical. Guidance shows a budget of $114,590, an increase of $1,747, or about 1.5%, and the health budget increases to $93,013, which is up $2,764, or just over 3%. And these shifts reflect routine updates to equipment, salary adjustments, staffing, and program needs that support students' daily experiences and well-being. The speech services is budgeted at $128,993, which is a decrease of $18,061, or 12.3%. And that reduction is as a result of adjusting the speech language pathology assistant position from 100% to 50% based on current student needs. I will note that salary costs do offset a portion of those savings. The improvement of instruction budget is $95,676, which reflects a decrease of $18,651, or about 16.3%. And that change is largely tied to restructuring that curriculum coordinator role from a full-time position to a 40% position as part of that aforementioned administrative team reorganization. Additional savings are anticipated due to lower expected course reimbursement costs for our staff. But overall, both of these adjustments reflect staffing and program alignment based on current student needs and organizational structure, rather than reductions in required services. So the educational media budget is $154,440, an increase of $4,788, or about 3.2%, and that reflects salary-related costs, which are offset slightly by a reduction in information access fees. Technology is budgeted at just under $354,000, increasing by just over $4,400, or 1.3%. And I'll note that the technology accounts do follow the updated board-approved 3-year technology plan. And that plan does help smooth out replacement cycles, and it does maintain up-to-date hardware and services and minimizes volatility from year to year. The increase is driven by staff COLA, information access fees, and software needs, while reductions in computer supplies and equipment help offset that overall cost. But both areas support the continued integration of instructional resources and technology, which are truly essential for teaching and learning. Support services remains level funded at $90,000. This account reflects the district's cost share for the school resource officer, the SRO. I will note that the SRO is an employee of the Northampton Police Department, and the district pays the town for those services provided during the school year. The Board of Education budget is $39,857, an increase of $8,833, or 28%. This increase is driven by higher costs for the annual audit, meeting-related expenses, as well as the reinstatement of school board member stipends. These increases are partially offset by a reduction in the legal services account. So these categories represent governance and safety-related supports that are outside of the direct classroom instruction, but are truly essential to overall district operations. SAU services are budgeted at $311,217. That's an increase of $26,757, or 9.4%. This reflects Northampton's share of the SAU central office budget. The SAU model provides for shared resources and personnel, operational efficiencies, and offers economies of scale that support cost-effective and high-quality district operations, while always being cognizant and maintaining that each individual district maintains its identity, as well as its decision-making and autonomy at the district level. School administration is budgeted at $333,515. That's an increase of about $166. This level funding essential level funding reflects a change in leadership and includes an investment in professional development. Together, these accounts support the district's ability to function efficiently while ensuring strong educational and operational leadership. The buildings budget is $696,794, an increase of $30,318, or about 4.6%. That increase is driven by a staffing change, salary adjustments, and ongoing price inflation. And when I say price inflation, it's those key facility-related items such as trash removal, repairs and maintenance, bottled gas, insurance, supplies, furniture, any contracted services. Some of these increases are offset by reductions in equipment, renovations, heating fuels, electricity, and consultant costs. Grounds is budgeted at $90,500, an increase of $10,454, or about 13%. And this reflects higher costs for lawn mowing, as well as grounds maintenance, and some necessary tree pruning and removal of and some minor masonry repairs. Both accounts ensure the school facilities and grounds remain safe, functional, and well-maintained for students, staff, and our community. When looking at our vehicles budget, we are level funded at $3,201, and that covers the annual maintenance and repairs for our school truck. The transportation budget is $662,212, and that reflects a decrease of $13,241, or about 2%. That reduction is primarily due to lower special education transportation costs, and that reflects a decrease in the number of students that are required, who require transportation for out-of-district placements. The remainder of this account reflects the year 3 of the district's 5-year contract with First Student, who provides our general education, so our daily bus routes, our athletic, field trip, and other transportation services. Overall, these adjustments align with our transportation costs with current student need and ongoing contractual obligations. Debt service remains at 0, as the district currently has no outstanding bond payments. Employee benefits total $2,602,253. That's an increase of $175,002, which is about a 7.2% increase. That is driven by additional health insurance plan elections due to staffing changes, as well as budgeting for a workers' compensation rate increase. The account also reflects the fact that last year's health insurance line was slightly under budgeted. Some of these increases are offset by reductions in benefits such as FICA, New Hampshire retirement system contribution, and insurance due to overall staff reductions. Overall, the benefits budget does reflect required adjustments tied to staffing patterns as well as our employee plan selections. So the interfund transfer is budgeted at $65,000. That's an increase of $20,000, or about 44%. That represents the transfer from the general fund to the food service fund to cover any projected deficit in the school lunch program. That food service budget is $220,956, a slight decrease of $242. And that decrease reflects staffing changes and savings from updated software. And those savings are offset by rising food and supply costs, as well as salary increases. But together, these adjustments ensure that the food service program remains fiscally stable while continuing to meet federal requirements and serve students effectively. So that concludes the detailed review of the budget by category. Across these accounts, most year-over-year changes are driven by staffing adjustments tied to enrollment and student service needs, as well as contractual salary and benefit obligations and targeted operational cost changes. Wherever possible, reductions and reallocations have been made to keep the overall budget stable while maintaining instructional quality and required student supports. Overall, the budget reflects a needs-based approach, aligning our staffing, our programs, and operational resources with student need, board policy, and long-term planning priorities. And finally, under New Hampshire law, a default budget is required to be calculated alongside the proposed operating budget. And I will note that the default budget totals $10,493,023, which is $74,364 less than the proposed operating budget. The default budget is based on the current, so this current year, FY26 approved appropriations, and it's adjusted for required obligations such as contracts and other legally mandated costs, and then it's reduced by any one-time expenditures or any eliminated positions in the proposed budget. That calculation follows a statutory formula. So the default budget is not discretionary and may be either higher or lower than the proposed budget, depending on those required adjustments, but typically it is lower than the proposed budget. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, does anyone have comments or questions in regards to the budget? Come on up to the microphone so you can speak.
Anne Marie Banfield. Do you need the address?
No. Can everyone hear Anne Marie? She seems pretty quiet. Come a little closer.
Okay. I have several questions, so let me know if I can go through them all, if you'd like me to sit down and
Well,
come back.
why don't you do a question? We'll see if somebody else then would like to
Okay,
speak.
absolutely.
And then they'll get to go next.
Okay. The curriculum coordinator that you are taking down to point 4, we have a curriculum coordinator at the SAU level. Is there some reason why we need one at our level? Or do we have 2? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have I'm sorry,
Yeah, Matt, I'm assuming you're going to answer, so it's fine. Go ahead, jump in.
Thank you. So we do have an SAU-wide director of curriculum instruction and assessment, and that role is really focused on a higher level across the entire SAU, and that position works with the individual school district's curriculum leader in each district. But we do need at the school and district level that person to fulfill that role at a more at the building level to work with our teachers hand in hand on that curriculum work. But there's certainly some overlap where those 2 roles are working together.
Does anyone else have a question, or do you want to go ahead and let Anne Marie go? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The licensed nursing assistant, what is the salary on that?
I'm not certain if I have that off the top of my head. Yeah.
Do you have an
I don't
estimate?
know. I don't know the exact salary off the top of my head. I want to say, actually, Lori, do you happen to have that?
Is that a 9-month position, or is that, that's
That's a
not year-round?
school year position.
So what do they do when it's off school
So
year?
they're off school.
I'm sorry, during the summer.
So they're working with directly with students. So it's or a student. So it's based on that student's IEP for medical needs.
So it's full-time
It's
during
just
the summer?
for the school year when that student requires those services.
So it's full-time during the summer, all year round?
No, full-time for the school year.
Just during the school year?
Just the school year.
Okay.
So,
Anne Marie, why don't you go ahead with the next question, then when
Okay.
Lori finds that answer, she can interject.
The guidance, can you break down that 114,000, or just maybe how many guidance counselors? Is that for two, or just one guidance counselor?
so we have a single guidance counselor.
And that's the salary right there?
Yeah, that's the salary with summer work as well.
So full-time all year long?
Well, it's not the entire year, but there is summer included.
Okay, that seems kind of generous. Give me a second. Sorry about this. Okay. The resource officer, we have budgeted for $90,000. You said that we pay for that resource officer. Are they here year-long? And I looked up the average cost of a police officer in New Hampshire, $59,000 to $67,000 per year. So that seems like it's pretty generous considering, you know, you've got police officers working on the street year-round, and I mean, I just did on, you know, AI, and it said 59,000 to 67.
I think
Well,
you
that's-
might have to ask questions about how the police are paid at the town meeting.
At the town meeting.
Because the school doesn't
But-
dictate the...
Even though it's in
But
the school budget?
I will note, however, I'd always be cautious about getting your answers on AI, but that doesn't account for benefits. So $56,000 may be the salary, but you have to add at least 50%. You also have to keep in mind that that's New Hampshire statewide. 50, what, that salary. We were on the seacoast,
Is it
it's a
9
salary,
months? Is
salary
it-
numbers look different
Is it
here.
full-time here, though?
Full-time school year.
All year?
School year.
So not
School year.
including the summer?
Correct.
Okay,
And
so-
we are only, so we
Yeah.
are paying that portion, that 10 months.
Yeah, that
of
seems
the-
really high,
Well,
if they're not
I-
here during the summertime.
Well,
Yeah, but you'd need to, I mean, as far as how, the police are paid through the town.
Right.
It's not dictated by the school.
That's, okay, the $90,000 is coming out of the budget, though, correct?
Yeah, so we're paying that portion, but, so you'll have to talk to the town about the salaries, but I believe that's collectively bargained and is market rate. It actually, from my understanding, we've had difficulty attracting police because of these salaries. So I can't speak for them, I don't,
Okay,
but that's something you can certainly talk.
all right,
at
thank you.
deliberative session.
The SAU services up 9.41%, increase of $26,000. It seems rather high, especially given the benefits for teachers are only going up, what, 7%? School administration up 0.5%. That seems rather high in terms of a bureaucracy. Where is that money going?
Yeah, that's primarily due to a decline in revenue. So the actual budget increase was about 2%, but the appropriation by district was higher because we're seeing a decline on the revenue side. Additionally, each district has a different appropriation based on enrollment and property valuation, that formula. So Northampton has maintained enrollment, whereas some of our other districts have seen some declines in enrollment. So that proportion has shifted a little bit. So the percentage that Northampton is paying for this coming year is slightly higher than the other districts.
Anne Marie, I'm going to cut you off because another person has a question, but then you can come back if no one else has questions. Oh, go ahead, Laura, you had an answer?
It's around 34,000.
Hello, David Haas. Just a comment more than anything. I think an increase of point.
David, come closer. If you want, push.
Yeah, sorry. I think, just overall looking at this in terms of like a 0.14 increase from last year, I think, kudos to the team for doing that. I think, that's, in this type of environment is a big deal. So thank you for the hard work there. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I will note it's actually a decrease of 0.14%. We have a reduction in the budget. I also know so Anne Marie asked a question about how many guidance counselors we have, and I answered 1. However, in that account, there's also a 30% school psychologist. So when it was noted that was high, yes, that would be high for a single guidance counselor, but it's actually 1.3 positions.
Okay, anyone else have any comments or questions? Okay, with no further comments, I'm going to say we're going to move Article 1 to the ballot as written. Do we maybe have a motion to restrict reconsideration on Article 1? We have a second. Larry seconded. All in favor of restricting reconsideration? Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Let's move on to Article 2. Do we have a motion to move Article 2 to the floor? Ashley?
I move to open the article for discussion.
And a second?
A second.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, Matt, do you want to talk about Article 2?
Thank you. Yes. So this proposed warrant article requests $230,756 to replace the HVAC unit that is located on the gymnasium roof, as well as upgrade the controls. This project is part of the district's established 5-year capital improvement plan, the CIP, which is presented to the town's capital improvement plan committee. The current unit is 30 years old and is reaching the end of its useful life by this summer of 2026. So in addition to age-related deterioration, The system has experienced water infiltration that has resulted in some chronic leaking in the gymnasium. So this replacement is essential to maintain a safe, functional environment for students, staff, and the community use. Thank you.
Okay, comments or questions in regards to this article?
Do you have an estimated tax rate impact on that, and will that be on the ballot so voters can see that?
I do not. I can certainly calculate that for you if you want to email me. It's easy enough to calculate. But the voters of Northampton have not voted to include the tax impact on their ballot. That is something that would have to be put to vote to include. And it has been done in other communities, but not in Northampton.
Yeah, I've seen it on other ballots. so I'm
because they
wondering,
voted for it.
How do you do that? Here?
You would have to have a warrant article on the town
warrant
to have it.
Okay, all right. And then how many bids will we take on this?
So we've gone through that RFP process already. That's how we got this exact number. I believe we received 3 bids.
Okay.
We had sent it out to approximately 9 qualified vendors.
And if it doesn't pass, then what?
Then it won't be replaced.
And how will will it still continue to work, I guess?
We'll have to make
Continue to
repairs,
fix it, repairs.
And cross our fingers.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this article? Okay, seeing no further comments on questions on this article, Article 2 will move to the ballot as written.
I move to restrict reconsideration of Article 2.
Do we have a second? All in favor of restricting reconsideration? Anyone opposed? Just a quick reminder that town deliberative session will be this Saturday, February 7th, 8:30 a.m., and it'll be in the same room. And that's about it, and this meeting is adjourned.